This is the show where we talk honestly about the hard parts of life, the hopeful parts of life, and how we rebuild after loss, stress, heartbreak, change. I'm Jen Dean. I'm a life coach, a family coach, and I'm someone who believes that even in the middle of pain, people are capable of incredible resilience, connection. Today's guest is someone whose story many Canadians will recognize immediately. You remember where you were on April 6, 2018, when you heard about the Humboldt bus crash, the Broncos bus crash. It changed lives forever. 16 people lost their lives, 13 survived. And the impact of that tragedy reached far beyond Saskatchewan. One of the survivors today is joining our show, Kaleb Dahlgren, now an author, a speaker, an advocate, someone who has spent the years since the crash helping people understand resilience, grief, mental health, and what healing can look like after this unimaginable trauma. Kaleb, thank you. You're here to bring hope. You're here to encourage us that no matter what we're going through in our life, we can overcome, we can get through it. But you don't want to sugarcoat it, right? We don't want to say, oh, it's, just be fine. So Kaleb, thank you for being on the show. Tell us about that day. Probably, is it the worst day of your life?
Well, thank you so much, Jen, for having me on here. First off, I appreciate it. I love what you're doing to help raise awareness on mental health throughout Canada and Saskatchewan in particular. And yeah, so I'd say April 6th was the day that changed my life forever. And the interesting part about it was saying it's the worst day of my life, maybe, but in the same breath, it could also have been one of the most revelational days of my life, too. So it really depends on how you view it. And so for me, we were playing the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. We were down 3-1 in the playoffs. I was with the Humboldt Broncos and playing against the top team in Canada. They're ranked number one. And we had two leads that we blew in the last 2 minutes or 5 minutes that went to overtime that they ended up scoring. So had we just won those games, we would have been up 3-1 in the series. Went to the rink, had a little pregame skate, then went to Johnny's Bistro and good old Humboldt and had a nice little post-practice meal. And then went home.
Yes.
And then after that, napped, went back to the arena, packed our bags, had some video, loaded the bus. I sat where I normally sat, row 12, aisle seat, driver's side, and did what I normally did, listen to music, talking to friends, teammates. I was texting my parents actually. I committed to York University at the time, which is in Toronto, and we were just going through the financials of that. But we were keeping it on the quiet just because of the team and where we were in playoffs and all that. So I want to be respectful of that piece. But then
Right.
after that, I have a pregame meal. I've always had a pregame meal before I put on the suit. Then I put on my suit, sat in my seat, and I did what I normally did. So I visualized. And so for me, I was in a shutdown role that night. So I was playing against the top line on the other team, and I was ready to shut them down. So I put my headphones in, closed my eyes, started visualizing, and then suddenly, boom, everything went black. And days later, like 5 days later, I woke up in a hospital, completely confused and dazed, unsure what had just happened, and was told about the news of the crash. I thought I was dreaming, and told that I lost 16 people, and that was when Dana had just passed away, and she was the 16th, and that I was one of the 13 survivors. I didn't even know my injuries. I just couldn't believe it. So I checked my phone and I saw hashtag prayers for Humboldt, hashtag Humboldt strong. But in those 5 days that I don't remember, like, so when the crash happened, I suffered a severe brain injury. That was one of the injuries I suffered, but I don't remember anything after that. So I have like a 5 day gap, but I was conversing and talking to people. So it's called post-traumatic amnesia. And so that was the state that I was in. After that, I went to physio, got told my injuries, fractured skull, punched into the skull, scalp declubbing, four broken vertebrae in my neck, four broken vertebrae in my back, blood clots in my left arm, my right eardrum, muscle nerve and ligament damage as well, and a severe traumatic brain injury where I shouldn't be able to walk, talk, remember my name. So all of this kind of coming in at like moments of me waking up from a nap, realizing what had just happened, the injuries, and trying to come to grips with it all. So it was a lot at once.
Yeah. My friends, people that I care about, people I respect. How do I manage that? Plus, my hopes and dreams now. What does that mean for my future? Plus, they're saying I likely will never walk or talk again. Is that
Yeah, yeah. So it was all that coming together in one. But I was walking and talking, so I was kind of confused about that. But the doctors were calling me a medical
right?
miracle because of how fortunate I was. Based on the imaging of my brain, it looked like I should have been in that state, but based on the clinical presentation, I wasn't in that state. I was actually like way advanced. And so they're calling me a miracle because they couldn't explain it.
Kaleb Dahlgren, Humboldt Broncos bus crash survivor. I shouldn't be able to walk, but I am. Does that make you feel hopeful and excited, or is it all just heavy and hard and depressing? Where did you go in that recovery process?
So for me, the recovery process was, I'd say, difficult in many different ways. You had to deal with all different aspects, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual side of it all, plus the loss of your own life in the sense, like the things you're doing, your goals, plus the loss of other people's lives, plus the community,
Yep.
other people's expectations. But the biggest thing was like I focused on what I could control. And like I had this built in from having type 1 diabetes at the age of 4 and building up resilience all throughout this process, losing a good friend of mine as a child, losing my personal trainer mentor, almost losing my dad and being a primary caregiver for him, and having different experiences that have developed me the person I am. So I had resilience already built in, and I had tools to how to handle it. So for me, I was like, can I focus on things I can't control? My attitude, my work ethics, my beliefs, my values. I couldn't control the fact that a semi truck driver went through a stop sign and our bus collided into it. I couldn't control the fact that the person in front of me survived, the person beside me passed away, behind him passed away, kitty corner me passed away, person behind me passed away, behind him passed away. I couldn't control any of that. I couldn't control who was here, who
Yeah.
wasn't here. All I could control was myself, even though my injuries. I couldn't control my injuries. I could just control what was I going to do right now leading forward. And so that was one of the big things I harnessed and held on to. And it was a lot. Like I was grieving, I had survivor's guilt. There's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, but the biggest thing was like, how am I going to respond to this? Am I let this defeat me and be a victim, or am I gonna actually use this, rise, learn, grow, and help other people throughout it?
I imagine, it's one thing to say that, but Kaleb, when you're in it, the mental toughness it takes to control your thoughts and not spiral is incredibly difficult. Tell us about survivor's guilt. That's a
Hmm.
real
It
thing. What
is
was that like for
for sure.
you?
So I had it when I first kind of came to. So it was day 5 on April 11th, around 2:20. It came to. That was when I had told what has happened, physio. Then at that night, it really hit me. I was gonna text my best friend. I had like one of those long messages all sent out, like ones that you're scrolling through, like that's a novel. Yeah. So I had
Yes.
that all.
You're pouring your heart out.
Yes,
Yeah.
is all typed out, ready to go. And then after I was about to hit send, I realized where my best friend was sitting. He was sitting behind me on the bus, and he was never going to receive that text anyways because he passed away. And
Oh,
so that's when it hit me. My heart like crushed, and I was like, "Why did this happen? Like, why did a father that had children at home and a wife pass away? Why did a 16-year-old who was talking to NHL teams pass away? Why did this happen?" And I couldn't wrap my head. Like, I was 20, one of the oldest on the teams. I had a good life. Like, I lived a great life, and I wasn't afraid of death. But I lived a good life. And there's others that were younger that should have lived more, had more aspirations, more future. And it's just like I couldn't grasp with it. And I started crying. I was asking, why us? Why this? Why me? And then
yeah.
about half an hour passed, and I thought, well, what if roles were reversed? What if I had passed away and they were sitting in my bed right now? How would I want them to live their life? Well, I want to pursue their passions, their dreams, their goals, to make the most of it, to really love deeply, to go travel the world, find the coolest thing you want to do, and go full heart into it. And I was like, well, if I want them to follow their passions and dreams, well, why don't I do that for myself and for them? So it wasn't just me, it was for the 16. So I want to live my life big for the 16 who aren't here, and then myself as well, so that when my time comes, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, 5 years, 20 years, whenever it is, I know I've lived my life to the fullest for them and myself. And so that was my motivation that spiraled me out of that survivor's guilt into more of like a motivational aspect of viewing the situation like, hey, I'm going to live my life for them and myself.
Dr. Kaleb Dahlgren joining the show today. He wrote a book, Crossroads, My Story of Tragedy and Resilience as a Humboldt Bronco. It's a #1 national bestseller. Kaleb, will you stick around? We want to come back. I want to talk to you about maybe pressure you put on yourself then to live this amazing life because you have to make it count now. Will you stay with us and we can talk more about
Yeah,
this?
for sure.
It's a Better Life with Jen Dean on 980 CJME and 650 CKOM.